Welcome to the DingeCast. We are driven by a passion for discovery and the belief that history should be uncovered. Our mission is to reveal the hidden realities of the past to bring history into the light. Welcome to the DingeCast.
Are you ready for the after show? This is it, the Dinge After Show. And we just got through the amazing megalithic mysteries, a really deep dive into the megalithic mysteries, in which, wow, we covered so much area. And we got more. We actually have more. And so, how would you like to proceed?
Let's just jump in because there was so much that we covered, and we were mostly just looking at the masonry itself, just how you even move and cut these giant blocks. But we didn't really get into the more minute details, just the precise stonework, things that look like drilling to some capacity. So I there was a few bits that we didn't quite get to. There was so much to cover. So the Osiris Temple, again, just seeing it with people in the shot here, you can really get the scale of how big these are.
Mm,
And what he's
yes.
explaining is that's a granite block on top of sandstone, which if I'm not mistaken, kind of puts the timelines in an odd place for which dynasty would have built it based on the materials they used. So
Mm,
uh,
yep.
that one was pretty interesting. And let's just take a walk through here because I feel like maybe maybe most people are kind of drawn to the artwork itself. You're like, what's on the wall? We kind of overlook just the how impressive the wall itself is.
Oh, so phenomenal.
Look at the size of that.
Size 18 shoe.
And then we actually walk through. And I love that we're geeking out about this, but look at that. It's
Oh,
perfect. It's
it's
that's so impressive.
so phenomenal.
So I didn't want to I didn't want to get going without at least kind of touching on some of these other bits here. And again, here's Egypt. That looks like a drill mark. Who knows what kind of tools they would have had to do this kind of work. We've seen like hand crank kind of chisels, but gosh, that would have been really, really hard to do unless you could maybe soften the stone or who knows? Who knows what they were doing?
It makes you wonder if they had discovered potentially diamond head type of technology, something that was harder than any kind of metal that they might have had at the time, maybe because in my understanding, the Sahara is filled with diamonds.
Hmm.
So maybe it was based on a diamond kind of technology. It's hard to say, but something had to be super hard in order to be able to penetrate. And wow, it's just amazing.
No, I agree. What if there was a compound that they made that included diamonds and it really had they just had the right tools for the job. We just haven't found them yet. That would be something else. Imagine that discovery.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is not to forget the timeline, because the timeline, they want us to believe 4,500 years ago, something like that. I don't believe it for a minute. I think it goes way back. And I think that they had much more advanced technology than they even want to admit.
Yeah. Egypt's a tough site like that where we've talked about that a lot of cultures build on top of
Right.
earlier civilizations' foundations. Egypt does have the same etchings of that, but it becomes really murky territory to investigate because there's a lot of debate over that people like you said, there's a certain kind of established timeline that we agreed upon a long time ago. We just as a people in general, but more and more evidence seems to suggest it certainly looks older. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but just even the Sphinx, right? We know the
Yep.
Sphinx was altered by these early dynasties. So even what we have of that is not what they encountered, and we don't know much about the original. So that alone is a thread to get into. But here's one for you. So this is a funny one. I didn't put it in the main presentation, but it needs to be called out because this is obviously in Montana in the USA. This is like somebody's private property that they bought this and just found this in their backyard.
Yep.
Gosh, I hope I could find something like that on my property someday. So, as the story goes, nature can form a lot of geometric shapes. It happens. So it is possible that this is a naturally formed wall, but there's a lot to suggest this is a man-made megalith. It's kind of just not even an out of place artifact. It's an out of place megalithic
Yeah.
structure here that what timeline does something like this fit into being located in North America, right?
Yeah, that's a really interesting location for so many reasons. And as you suggested, there are stones that have carve outs in them that look like they were designed, there it is, to accommodate, ropes and things of that nature. So, I mean, but yeah,
Oh
you think
yeah.
nature actually did that? I don't.
Yeah, I'll
Oh,
jump to
there it
what you're
is.
talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is just one picture. I didn't want to, fill this whole slides up with this, but there's a lot of knobs on a lot of these stones, just like we see in Peru. Maybe not quite the same craftsmanship, but the same concept. Uh, and then if that's not enough for you, I mean, right above this one knob here, you have this notch that looks like something would have been fit into this, like like a metal anchor tied
Yeah,
to a rope or something.
that's
I
right.
mean, there's examples of this all over this site,
Yeah. Do you
and
think, I mean, how is it possible that nature would be able to do that, first of all?
yeah, I guess
Come
the type
on.
of stone, it's like perfect straight lines and all that stuff happens, but I don't know about this scale and just the way it looks, like they look stacked, they look fitted. It's such a strange site. I love this one.
Yeah, this is an amazing site.
So,
And like you
getting
said, the guy
yeah.
bought the property and then discovered this. Wow.
Yeah, just buried in the trees. They had to kind of clear it out. But he's like,
Yeah.
well, the more he uncovered, the more it's like, oh, what am I looking at here? Uh, so this is one that should really make you think. If nothing else, it's
Well, and it simply does look very much Peruvian, in my opinion.
yeah, that same culture, the same style.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
Look at
Like I
that.
said,
I
we
mean,
should have made a quiz that we just throw up a picture and we're like, tell me where you think this is located,
yeah, exactly.
and just to entertain the other side of it, excuse me, is yeah, yet nature does form perfect geometric shapes sometimes. This is literally just one example. We could pull up a whole slide deck of just these, but pick this one because it's kind of nearby. It's in Wyoming, and this thing is massive. I mean, look at the trees around it, and I mean, there's all kinds of stones like this in the. I've seen on the West Coast. I mean, it's probably all over the place, but I've seen along a whole mountainside. Just it's like the mountain just kind of got broken off into these perfect squares, and it's not even the right angles in a lot of cases. It's literally you can measure each side, and it's still a perfect square. So
Hmm.
cube, whatever. It's
Yeah,
not really
there's a great, uh, uh, I don't know what it is, a video on YouTube. And they go into it and they measure it and, they use the angle tools to see how straight it is and all the rest of it. And then they pull back from a very, like a 500-foot aerial view like you have here and show where it came from. And then it kind of makes you wonder. Makes you wonder.
Is
Yeah.
that the do you know if that's the Desert Drifter video?
I think it is.
He was something else. He passed away
Oh, no,
months
that's
ago.
right. I did read that.
I think he was at a stoplight and a drunk driver hit his car and
What a
took
tragedy.
his life. It's awful. He
Yeah, I
really
did
he
see
really
that.
was a special person. The stuff that he
Yeah.
found, you can still check out all the videos, Desert Drifter on YouTube.
Yep.
You can
That's the
spend
one.
hours getting lost in that channel. It's something else.
Yep. Yeah, his wife is still, they've got like a GoFundMe or something page for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just awful. Okay. So Olante Tambo. We did cover this before, and we did look at this particular fountain, but I didn't get into the details like I wanted. I mean, this is more after show content for us, but I can't remember the exact. I think this is on an equinox. That's why it's in particularly of significance. So the way the shadow hits just interestingly enough, you kind of see a face here. Like there's the nose, the mouth, the chin, and then they've got their hands out, almost like it's right into the water, collecting the water.
Isn't that amazing?
There's, people look for patterns. Maybe it's a coincidence, but it's pretty perfect. I really enjoy this. And the other aspect too is this isn't the only case of this, right? How many South American sites have shadows that interact with something?
Right. The pyramid in wherever it is
Chichen
in
Itza, I
Mexico
think.
that has the feathered serpent.
Yeah, I think that's Chichen Itza.
Chichen Itza, yes.
Yeah. So, this wouldn't be out of the question. It's not like it's the only example. And then we've got, maybe they've got like a headdress on or something, or maybe
Yeah.
there's some connection there. If I'm not mistaken, this is a mummy that was found, or remnants of a person that was found not too far from this site, and not the only one. So, uh, that's to me, that's really interesting that you've got the face and everything. Uh, Gosh, I hope that somebody can really dig into that and find if that was intentional. But lack of written records or anything we found makes it really difficult. So jumping back across to Egypt, I feel like this is a site that maybe doesn't get as much attention, so I just want to throw it in here. I mean, I'll jump to a zoom out, but you can see all the perfect angles. So smooth. They say like no drill marks, no chisel marks, no hammer marks. I've seen videos where they pour water on it, they get the camera right up along
Right.
it, and it's perfect. And then we get more drill holes, and that thing is precise. It's really something. It's what a shame to see it in the state that it's in. Imagine this site back in its original glory.
What would you speculate this was for at the time?
I can't even say. If there was, I just don't know. What do you think? Do you have any ideas?
Well, it doesn't look like it was necessarily designed to be a doorway, but it could have been. I didn't get to see the very back of it, if it was
Yeah.
solid still or not. But then the other thing it could have been is a very fancy tomb, coffin, or whatever they call them back in the
hmm
day.
Yeah, if the holes were only on one side, yeah, you can maybe say something could be fit in and it acts as a swivel, but they're on each side.
Yeah.
Or maybe, it could have opened from either end. Actually, no, like two different door panels. But I'm
Possibly.
just speculating. I have no idea. Super interesting though.
It's quite elaborate.
Yes. And then I found this nice high res shot of one of the drill holes just to show. I mean, this isn't like it's a pretty good circle. I mean, they had to have drilled it, right? This is not handwork with the chisel, uh, or and if they made a crank tool that could be drilled in, they still were able to keep it super steady because
Yeah,
you have
that's
a good tool, but it's gonna have some imperfections. It's part of the remarkable. It's remarkable that they managed to do this at all, but then the precision makes it the unknown. We just no one can understand how it's that precise.
Do you happen to know what the rest of that rock formation is? Because it looks like there's a corner there.
Yeah, I don't. I'd have to dig
Yeah,
around. I've got more pictures of this site. I just pulled these two in here.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to look at that one because it looks
Hmm.
like it'd be. There are drill holes in each of these, but the piece we were looking at was more buried, so I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if that's
Yeah. Yep.
if it's one of those or not. I can't confirm that for you.
Mm.
Super crazy. And then hopefully, people already know about this one. This gets a lot of attention, I think, because the size and weight is something. This doesn't fit into the tomb where it is, which means they had to have planned ahead and had this constructed, moved in, and then the rest of the room was built on top of it. You
Mm-hmm.
have to go through a lot of narrow hallways to get here as well. I can't remember how much room you have, but I mean, this barely even fits in the hallway. So like, assuming if people carried this through the hallway, uh, you were really gonna have to work around any corners. There was just enough room. I mean, basically not enough room for people to be holding it. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
that tight.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now, some people say that it was designed to fit these sacred bulls, but they have never really found any genetic material or anything
yeah,
in these. So hard to say what it would have been for.
yeah. I
Unless, of
mean,
course, they had
centuries
giant
of grave,
mummies.
yeah, centuries of Tomb Raiders and grave robbers and all that stuff. Whatever
Yeah.
may have been there, and yeah, it's been long gone, unfortunately. But again, more like it's just everywhere you look, there's just corners and all of these 90-degree angles everywhere. I mean, people have gone in and measured them. They're all perfect.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the weight of just the lid itself, but the moving just the lid is wild because it weighs so much. It was like I'm gonna be wrong, but I want to say it was like 16 tons or something. I'm probably
Yeah.
way off, but
Yeah.
it's a big number for what it is and where it is. It's just crazy. So we don't have to spend too much time on that, but that's an amazing location. And again, just another find that just made people scratch their heads. I mean, imagine the people who originally found this. They're walking through the tunnels. Okay, this looks about right. This and that. Okay, cool, cool. And then you get back here and you find that, and you're like, on earth is this? I love it. So back to Lake Titicaca. We covered a lot of this in the last episode, but there's so much we could just do just this area. So I just grabbed another one because I like it's again that same kind of stonework. This one actually kind of has some fun little animal etchings in there. But I shared this because one of them is partially destroyed, so you can actually get a little bit of a sense of the construction process there by seeing the inside.
It looks like some of those blocks are hollowed out.
Exactly, yeah, and for this, which seems different from a lot of the others, is it's perhaps not a mortarless build, but to your point, this has brought about a lot of the intrigue for people. If they're saying, why were some of those hollowed out? What was there was holding them together? Like it doesn't see, it wouldn't just be a coincidence that some of them just were like that. So that adds to the mystery. It really does.
Unless, of course, those were locking devices so that you had, the corresponding block that had like a little lump in it that would fit
Yeah,
in. Yeah.
I mean that's a pretty safe assumption. You can see these
Yeah.
bits in here that you would have kind of pressed in and use that to fit it all together.
Yeah.
That's likely, uh, but it's still a very interesting construction teak for the time,
Well,
regardless.
super sophisticated.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool one.
Wow.
Uh, Again, another site that we already covered, but worth just taking a second to go back to. Puma Punku is super cool. This was the one with the H-shaped blocks. But again, we have these drill holes. Very nicely drilled holes, these nice, perfect straight line cuts. Literally grabbed, I think, three pictures. There's so many more, but just to kind of, I love threading it all together that we're seeing the same kind of techniques all around the world. Just more perfect angles. Okay, this one I've always liked this one, so I don't know why it didn't fit in for the last episode, but it works here. So, Nuapa Inglesia. This is this was one of, I guess you know what it was. This was probably one of the first that I found when I was exploring the Peru area. So people don't really know what this is. They're like they might have been an altar. They everything's a guess. Nobody knows. The unfortunate part is that the top here, and who knows what else at this site, was destroyed. I guess in the 1600s, Spanish conquistadors were looking for gold. They could have cared less about these ancient sites. It was the pursuit of gold. So they recklessly went in with some dynamite, blew up some areas to see if there was any hidden chambers or something. Didn't find anything and moved on. And these are the ruins. But for ruins left behind from that destruction, we've still got some pretty wild sights here. And right, imagine being imagine sailing across the Atlantic, coming to the New World, looking for gold. You're walking around, it's just mountains and, a lot of nothing kind of settlements. And you see this. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, the Spanish were like, no, no, there's gotta be something here.
Right.
This looks way too special for there to be nothing to find. But allegedly, they never found anything here, and the purpose of this site remains a mystery. How weird is that?
Mm.
So, and
Well,
even
again, getting weird.
please,
Uh, there are people who speculate that these are doorways to stargates of some sort that only the high priests knew how to open. In other words, not necessarily a physical door, but a metaphysical door.
hmm
So again, we don't understand the idea, or unless we have stargates that nobody has admitted to.
yeah, I mean, I've seen that kind of those theories, and like I said, that it would have some kind of spiritual or ritualistic practice. I mean, that's what it looks like. So who knows what the purpose of those sessions were?
Yeah.
And then even off to the side here, right? There was even more going
Oh
on.
yeah.
Like
Decorative.
who knows how big this was? What was up there?
Mm-hmm.
So wild. It's like either that or that was their entertainment center. They put the speakers here, the TV, the DVD player. I
Yeah.
don't know. And then um does anything else even compare to this one? Uh,
No.
no, I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
So for scale, I mean, I think like, is that a person down there? I don't even. That's probably not even a. That's bigger than that. So here we have a naturally formed basalt mountain, basalt rock, and a long time ago, some people just started chiseling into that mountain. So this is a temple that was not built, constructed, whatever. Blocks weren't moved here. They just carved it into the. I mean, it's like a 3D printer, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Except for
uh,
top down.
yeah. So that exists. And it's not like, oh well, they carved it, but after they carved it, there's like barely a square inch that doesn't have
Yeah.
just jam-packed, intricate artwork like this, all cut into stone that is not easy to work with. And this is the outside. This is a bit more weathered. That is just carved into a mountain. Uh, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
hard to
it's
comprehend. I don't know
magnificent.
what they say the timeline is for this and how many people, but this is too much. This is
Well, the other, I believe the other
insane.
thing that's interesting is that they can't find any of what was removed. There was tons and tons, hundreds and hundreds of
Yes.
tons of rock removed, and they don't know where it went.
Yeah, definitely a mysterious site.
Very
But just
mysterious.
an awesome. I mean, you could there's YouTube videos of people just walking around for 20 minutes just so you can get a look at everything and all the details, the size. But I love how this picture gives you a little bit of the natural rock still there so you can see it.
Mm.
And then it just, yeah, all of that. I mean, at one point, imagine when they weren't done, if that was kind of like a cave and just chipping away and chipping away. And imagine if there was a miscalculation. It's like, Dave, that's not where we were gonna, like, oh,
Oh man, we put the door in the wrong place.
yeah. Like, can't redo it. Can't get one shot at this one. Uh,
Wow.
it's hard to comprehend. I have to visit this in person someday because I have to just feel the presence of
Yes,
that to know it's real. Like it's
I
oh
agree.
gosh, it's
To
just
put
it's just
hands
too
on it, to
cool.
lay hands on it and get a sense of the vibration.
Yeah. There's even I think it's at this site as well. There's an iron pole that was cast with such pure
That it never
alloys and
rusted.
techniques it doesn't rust.
Yeah.
And they still can't figure out how they did it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, which I love. I mean, I wanted to mention this the other night too when we were just talking about I guess it was there a plant that could be mixed to melt stone down or to make it more malleable like clay that there was they find these Viking swords and they're made with such superior iron that it predates European knowledge of that by hundreds of years. And that just kind of shows this connection that the Vikings obviously had sailed to Asia and traded, knowledge, raw materials, and they jumped Europe and got that knowledge and brought it back to the Nordic area. And it's just the same kind of things you see. Like what kind of advanced metalwork uh, did these guys have to be able to do this, right? We look at the ancient bells. It was a science and an art form to figure out, these four metals and this amount for the right recipe, and then the right shapes for the right resonance. There's a lot of experimentation goes into this stuff, but it's a lot. It's incredible craftsmanship and just engineering.
Yes, and it also goes to the question of whether or not there was advanced technology, but not necessarily the kind of technology that you would think of as being as advanced as what we have today with computers and all the rest. But somehow, this does not, it really does remind me of a, what do they call those? A printer, the 3D printer.
Exactly, yeah.
So there, in
You
other
could
words,
picture it like, yeah.
look, I've studied crop circles for decades, and some of the crop circles are so sophisticated. Now the question is, what if that technology that creates the crop circles, and by the way, what it does is it explodes the stem, so that when the crop circle is forming, it looks like some kind of high energy explodes the stem and causes it to fall,
Hmm.
and they fall in a certain direction. So see, is it possible that we're looking at some kind of an energy technology as opposed to, you see, a natural plant extract of some sort, but an energy technology that existed then? Because they also talk about, in India especially, the Vimanas, the flying machines,
Mm-hmm.
similar
Like a
to the
flying
kind of
city
propulsion
almost, yeah.
systems, yeah, that they claim to be in, some of the recovered vehicles, off-world vehicles. I don't know. But it's all very fascinating for that reason because, how do we get the clues? Where do we get the clues from when it comes to, was this just human beings plinking away with little, handheld tools? It doesn't look like it to me.
Yeah. And that's a lot of
Doesn't,
agreed upon styles and you've got a whole bunch of people working on different sections and it all comes together
yeah,
perfectly. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, something is uncanny about this.
I mean, like you said, I mean, we think of everything in terms of modern tech that, well, if it doesn't have a screen and Wi-Fi, it's certainly not as advanced as what we can do. And also some older tech had more simple uh, foundations for it than we kind of overcomplicate it. It's like, well, how could they have done a perfect circle? And it's like, well, you get string, you tie it to a stake, you put it in the ground, and then you hold a part of the rope and you just walk around and draw your line. You just drew a perfect circle in the dirt, and then you can lay stone in it, whatever. So like, their understanding for math could have been with a stick and a string, but that's kind of how math is. Some aspects are simple once you have the right tools, but they knew how to use those primitive tools to accomplish so much. And I feel like we kind of have lost that, right? What's the joke that they showed? This is so dated now, but it was millennials, but let's just add it like Gen Z or whatever. They showed him a can opener. None of them knew how to open a can. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
you can, well, I know how to do all this other stuff, but when it comes down to just simple tools, they
Yeah.
already lost that knowledge, right? It
What a
only
great example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, well, how could we have lost all that knowledge? You don't even know how that works, and that's not old at all. So, we were just talking too the other day about why can't I think of what Teotihuacan it must have been the liquid mercury,
Yes.
right? So that's just an interesting find in and of itself that there'd be that much mercury inside of a temple, but then knowing where they would have gotten the rocks from that had it, transported it, could melt it down and refine it, and handle it safely in theory without dying, unless swaths of people had to die in order to get it there. But So
You
again,
know,
like
the other
tech,
interesting thing about that underground place is that there are on the ceiling there are what appear to be like a stars that glisten and some kind of I don't even know what it is that the stars are made of, but it is like a miniature world in of itself, include with a sky.
wow. And especially
Oh
like
yeah,
Mercury acting like a mirror too, like with like that
yeah,
reflective property.
yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah. Super sophisticated.
Seriously. And I guess just to kind of tie it all together for your point of harnessing energy, right? Like the Incas were obsessed with thunder and lightning. You know, it's like understanding they had to have
Yep.
understood some aspect of it being electricity or just an electric pulse, whatever you want to call it. Um, and just you know, just the power of it, just it commands your attention, but it makes you wonder what else they may have tried to use to harness that. Is there a way to again, I'm just throwing ideas at there, but like, you know, could they figure out how to make a lightning rod? And then what does
Well, I
that
mean, they have the
connect to? And
Baghdad
then what
battery,
does, yeah, and a battery. I mean, yeah.
right? And so, I mean, there are depictions of around the pyramids at the time, 4 or 5 thousand years ago, where the city is lit up with light.
They found the Baghdad battery, which really helped to uh verify that. So what was it? It's something
It's a
acidic.
coil of
You know,
some
you
sort.
mix something
Yeah,
acidic with I can't
right.
remember exactly, but that you could locally source the materials. It's not, you know, it's like you could squeeze a lemon and mix something else.
Yeah,
And you know, add conductive material to it, and it does produce, you know, like a weak, but it does produce an electrical charge. So
yeah.
that's it's just crazy. So. Um, just one more nice close up just of all the detail here. Like I said,
Mm.
you could check this out. There's plenty of pictures and videos covering it. Um, that's all that I really had. I just wanted to kind of make sure we at least covered that because it you can't really look at the megalithic mysteries without also looking at the little details too. That we're talking about people who could do this incredible work to move, you know, quarry, move and lift these stones to cut them, you know, giant shapes that are precise, but also in those the little details. And we got to think of what was the purpose, right? Like
Yep.
we're talking about the mercury, you know, chambers at Teotihuacan. It's crazy that they were able to do that and they did accomplish it, but we don't even know why. What was the point of all that? No one knows.
No one knows, but I have a feeling, and I'm huge on AI because AI is able to look at patterns, thousands of data points and patterns, and over a long period of time, and then discern, um, in a sense, what it is and why it is there, why we have. Who knows? I mean, I'm just thinking the underwater civilizations that we're yet to find, the various cities that they found through lidar, the various things that we would take us 100 years to figure out. The AI is going to figure it out very quickly, and there's an experiment that they did where they fed this data from the Hubble. It was years that they had it stored before they had the technology to sort of dissect it, and they fed it into an AI program, this monster AI program, and it started detecting other dimensions. Now, we've
Hmm.
always theorized that there were other dimensions, but now what we have is this ability to crunch all these numbers, and they asked it questions, and it started to answer them, whatever it is that they discovered. So I think AI is a phenomenal thing, and it may help us find out whether or not there are such things as stargates that people were able to traverse at some point in time, maybe many 10,000, 15, 20,000 years ago, who knows? And so that, it's just a point. I think that the technology is going to be the key to our future. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, we have to be either living in or about to live through a technological renaissance with, or not that, but like you're saying, through the use of AI, there's going to be a renaissance of new understanding because we're going to suddenly learn all this. I mean, it's like Moore's law. If you look at Ray Kurzweil's predictions on our timeline to singularity, uh, we're right around the point where we enter those bigger breakthroughs, right? Through AI,
Mm,
we can crack the code of quantum theory or something. What's his name? Brian Greene. I
hmm.
think it was Brian Greene years ago had great coverage of explaining this in layman's terms so that
Yeah,
anyone can
Brian Greene's
understand this.
great, by the way.
Yeah.
He's
Oh, yeah.
he's he is one of the best out there because he actually is looking for the truth, whatever that may be. And
And
he's
whether or
not
not people
shy.
are upset about it, right? It's not
Oh
a lot of
yeah.
people may be upset to say this is how old everything is, and this is yeah.
Yeah.
I love his work. So
He's
I'm
great.
hoping him, imagine him, his brain working with a team of engineer prompts and really doing the deep research on this. I can't wait to see what we find from that.
Oh, me too.
And yeah, and to your
In my
point, it's the same for
lifetime.
archaeology. So I'm like, okay, give me within the next 7 years, because they're saying like 2032 is when something we're gonna a lot of this is gonna really force a lot of change. So I'm thinking that means within the next 7 years, along with whatever disruption to labor sectors are gonna be. I'm getting off topic now, but
No, I think it's
we're gonna have
important though.
some nice archaeological finds as well as a result.
Well, the thing is about advancements. There were, and I'm going to go back to the time of Merlin, who was an alchemist, a combinations of things that were put together to create whatever it is they created. But I think that maybe AI will crack that open too, so that we'll be able to find out. You were talking about the swords that were built. How did they build them? What was the difference between what they did then and now? I mean, think about it now. We have most of our buildings are either made out of concrete or wood. Interestingly, we only build buildings to last so long. I mean, maybe 100 years, maybe 150 years if you're lucky. But back thousands of years ago, they were building buildings to last 10, 15, 20, 100,000 years. What was the thinking behind the building these structures that were designed to last
Right.
tens of thousands of years as opposed to temporary? So it goes to the whole philosophy of whether or not we were living in an existential threat mentality, that we were always, now we have telescopes that can tell us pretty much, but then there are a lot of these space rocks that get away from us and we just discover them days before they're close. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So our society is more, well, we'll be okay because we can detect these things ahead of time, which was obviously, I mean, if we're doing it now, my God, they were doing it then. That's all I can say.
For sure. We're about to run out of time, but just I'll kind of end with the sites that we do build with those astronomical kind of symbols, right? Like Washington, D.C. is full of it. Hoover Dam has a lot of
Yes.
structure to showcase that if we were ever lost. So it makes you wonder if we're doing that with some of our sites, were they treating their old sites the same way?